Most traders don't lose because they lack strategy. They lose because they cannot wait. And here is what makes that so difficult to accept. Waiting does not feel like losing. It feels like falling behind. It feels like everyone else is in the market and you are standing outside it. It feels like opportunity is moving and you are standing still. So you click. You enter early. You exit early. You force trades that were never there. You manufacture setups from movement that had no structure. And you do all of it not because your analysis was wrong, but because the silence between trades became unbearable. In this video, we are going to examine why waiting feels psychologically threatening, what is happening neurologically when inactivity becomes intolerable, and why the ability to do nothing, truly nothing, is one of the rarest and most valuable skills a trader can develop. Because patience is not a personality trait. It is not something you either have or you don't. It is a skill, and like every skill, it can be understood, practiced, and built. Let's go deep. Part 1. The discomfort of doing nothing. In most professions, activity produces results. The relationship between effort and progress is reliable. Study more, perform better. Work harder, earn more. Practice longer, improve faster. This is the framework the brain uses to navigate the world. Effort equals progress. Action equals advancement. And that framework is correct in almost every domain of human endeavor, except trading. Trading rewards selective action, not constant action. That creates a contradiction so deep that most traders never fully resolve it. Your brain, built over millions of years to associate effort with survival, tells you that doing something is better than doing nothing, that engagement is better than stillness, that action is better than waiting. But in trading, that instinct is wrong. Consistently, measurably, expensively wrong. Because in trading, excessive action reduces performance. More trades does not mean more profit. More engagement does not mean more edge. More effort applied indiscriminately means more noise, and noise costs capital. This creates a tension that sits at the center of the trading experience for most people. The mind believes effort should equal progress. The market does not operate on that belief, and many traders spend their entire careers trying to resolve that tension by doing more analysis, more trades, more screen time, more activity, when the resolution is actually the opposite, less. But less feels wrong, and feeling wrong is uncomfortable enough that most traders never stay there long enough to find out what is on the other side. Part 2. The neuroscience of waiting. Let's go inside the brain. Because the discomfort of inactivity is not psychological weakness, it is neurological reality. The brain has a network of regions called the default mode network. This network activates when the brain is not engaged in a specific task, when you are waiting, when you are doing nothing, when you are simply observing without acting. The default mode network does not go quiet during inactivity. It becomes more active. It generates thoughts. It creates narratives. It produces restlessness. And in a trading context, that restlessness is dangerous because the default mode network does not know you are waiting for a specific setup. It only knows that the environment is stimulating, charts moving, prices changing, candles forming, and that you are not responding to it. And not responding to a stimulating environment feels, to the brain, like a mistake, like something is being missed, like action is required. This is why staring at charts without a position is so cognitively uncomfortable. It is not boredom. It is the default mode network generating urgency in a situation where urgency is not appropriate. There is also a second neurological layer. The dopamine system, as we explored in the overtrading video, is an anticipation system. It fires in response to the possibility of reward, and a moving market is full of possibilities. Every candle that forms is a potential opportunity. Every price movement is a potential entry. The dopamine system responds to that possibility. It creates the feeling of readiness, the feeling that something is about to happen and you should be positioned for it. That feeling is not analysis. It is chemistry, and chemistry does not distinguish between a high-quality setup and noise. It fires for both equally, which means the biological urge to act is present constantly in a live market, regardless of whether the conditions justify action. The trader who cannot wait is not undisciplined. They are unaware that the urgency they feel is neurological, not analytical, unaware that the readiness they sense is dopamine, not edge, and that unawareness costs them on every session where patience was the correct trade. Part 3. Why waiting feels wrong. When you stare at charts without a position, the mind becomes restless. Every candle feels meaningful. Every small move feels like opportunity. Every price level touched feels like a signal. But most of those movements are noise, random fluctuation within a market that has no clear structure, no defined edge, no justified risk. The problem is not the ability to recognize opportunity. Most traders can identify their setup when it appears clearly. The problem is tolerating inactivity long enough to see the difference between structure and noise. Because structure is rare and noise is constant. A market moves every second. Candles form continuously. Price never stops. But genuine, high-probability structure, the kind that justifies capital deployment, might appear 2 or 3 times in a session, sometimes once, sometimes not at all. And in the hours between those appearances, the market does not look quiet. It looks active. It looks like things are happening. It looks like opportunities are forming and passing. But they are not. They are noise wearing the costume of opportunity. And the trader who cannot wait will trade the costume every time.
Part 4. The fear of missing out. Many traders enter early not because the setup is complete, but because they fear missing the move. The mind tells them, if you wait for full confirmation, the opportunity will be gone. The best entries are early entries. By the time it is obvious, it is too late. So they anticipate. They enter before confirmation arrives, before structure is established, before the setup has fully formed. And sometimes it works. Price moves in their direction. The early entry looks like skill, like anticipation, like reading the market ahead of everyone else. But what actually happened is survivorship bias. The trades that worked from early entries are remembered. The trades that failed from early entries, the ones that stopped out before the move eventually came, the ones that reversed and never recovered, those are filed away as bad luck, as bad timing, as the market being manipulated, not as the cost of entering before confirmation. Over time, this creates a trader with an inflated sense of their early entry ability and a deeply distorted view of their actual edge. They believe they are reading the market. They are actually trading fear. Fear that the move will happen without them. Fear that patience will cost them the opportunity. Fear that waiting is the same as losing. But patience is not about avoiding opportunity. It is about recognizing the difference between movement and structure. Movement is what the market does constantly. Structure is what justifies a trade. One is always present, the other is rare, and the trader who confuses the two will always trade too much. Part 5. Emotional fatigue and the cost of constant vigilance. Constant engagement drains something most traders underestimate: attention. The human attention system is not designed for unlimited sustained focus.
Research in cognitive psychology consistently shows that decision quality degrades after extended periods of high-focus activity. The brain, like any system operating under load, begins to fatigue, and fatigued attention produces fatigued decisions. When you watch every tick, every fluctuation becomes emotionally charged. Small adverse moves feel threatening. Small favorable moves feel like signals to exit and protect profit. The noise of the market becomes amplified, and amplified noise creates impulsive responses. You exit a trade early because a single candle moved against you and your fatigued brain interpreted it as reversal. You widen a stop because 3 candles of consolidation felt like failure and your depleted attention system could not sustain the uncertainty. You take a marginal setup because 4 hours of watching without trading had exhausted your patience reserves entirely. These are not discipline failures, they are attention failures. And attention failures are the predictable consequence of demanding your brain sustain high-focus vigilance for hours without strategic rest. Waiting, genuine, structured waiting, protects mental energy. It allows the attention system to recover between meaningful events. It keeps the prefrontal cortex fresh for the decisions that actually matter. A trader who waits selectively arrives at each genuine setup with full cognitive resources. A trader who engages constantly arrives at each setup depleted. Same system, same setup, completely different execution quality, because the resource that drives execution, attention, is finite, and how you manage it between trades determines how well you use it during them.
Part 6. Lessons from Professional Traders. Some of the clearest wisdom about patience comes from professionals who have traded through conditions where the temptation to act was overwhelming and learned, often through expensive mistakes, to resist it. One principle shared consistently among experienced traders is this: the trade you did not take is often the most profitable trade of the session. Not because not trading makes money directly, but because the energy preserved by not taking a bad trade is available for the good one that follows. The bad trade costs twice, once in the loss, once in the depleted state it creates for the next decision. Another widely observed principle among professionals who have sustained performance over long periods: waiting is not passive. It is the active management of your own readiness. When an experienced professional sits through an hour of unqualified market conditions without trading, they are not idle. They are preserving capital. They are maintaining mental clarity. They are keeping their execution resources fresh for the moment when conditions align. That is work, invisible work. Work that never appears on a trading statement, but work that is directly responsible for the quality of every trade that does. And a third principle, observed in the habits of traders who have built genuinely consistent track records over years. The ability to wait is not built in the market. It is built before the market opens, specifically in the planning stage. When you define before the session exactly what you are waiting for, what structure must be present, what confirmation is required, what conditions justify capital deployment, you give your brain a target. And a brain with a target can tolerate inactivity far more easily than a brain without one, because the waiting is no longer formless. It is purposeful. You are not waiting for something to happen. You are waiting for one specific thing to happen, and that specificity transforms the psychological experience of waiting entirely. Part 7. The Paradox of Action. Here is the paradox at the center of this entire conversation. The traders who act the least often achieve the most consistent results, not because less action is inherently virtuous, but because their trades occur only when conditions genuinely justify risk. They do not chase movement.
They respond to structure, and structure appears far less frequently than most traders expect. In a typical trading session, genuine high-probability structure might represent 10 to 15% of market time. The remaining 85 to 90% is noise, consolidation without direction, movement without structure, price action that offers no edge. The selective trader sits through that 85 to 90%, watching, waiting, preserving capital and attention. And when the 10 to 15% arrives, when the structure forms, when the conditions align, when the probability justifies the risk, they act cleanly, decisively, with full resources. The overactive trader spends their energy and capital in the 85% and arrives at the 10% depleted, or having already lost enough that the correct trade cannot be sized properly. One trader is selective, the other is reactive. Same market, same opportunities, completely different outcomes, because one of them understood that waiting was not the gap between trading, it was the foundation of it.
Part 8. Practical Tools for Building Patience. Let's get concrete, because understanding why patience matters is only the beginning. Building it requires structure. The first tool is the session definition. Before the market opens, before charts load, before price moves, before the default mode network begins generating urgency, write down exactly what you are waiting for today. Not generally, specifically. What structure must be present, what confirmation is required, what level, what time frame, what conditions define today's qualified setup. That definition becomes your anchor during the session. When the market moves and the urgency builds, you return to the definition. Does this match what I wrote down? If yes, you act. If no, you wait. The definition protects you from the costume of opportunity. The second tool is the noise filter log. Every time you feel the urge to enter a trade that does not meet your session definition, write it down. The time, the setup, why it felt compelling, and why it did not qualify. This log does two things. It externalizes the urge, which reduces its power over your behavior, and it builds a record of the noise you successfully resisted. Over time, reviewing that log reveals how often your urges were wrong, and that evidence, your own historical evidence, makes resisting the next urge easier. The third tool is the structured rest protocol. Every 60 to 90 minutes of chart watching, step away for 10 minutes. No charts, no phone, no market-related content. Just 10 minutes of deliberate disengagement. This resets the attention system. It reduces the default mode network's accumulation of restlessness, and it returns you to the chart with a fresher, more objective perspective. 10 minutes every 90 minutes is not lost time. It is maintenance of the tool you are trading with, your brain. The fourth tool is the end-of-session patience grade. At the close of every session, grade yourself not on profit and loss. Grade yourself on patience. Ask, did I wait for my defined conditions? Did I resist the urges that did not qualify? Did I protect my attention by resting between setups? Score yourself from 1 to 10. Track that score weekly. When your patience grade rises, your performance follows. Not immediately, but consistently, because patience is the infrastructure that every other skill in trading is built on. The market offers movement constantly, but edge appears rarely, and the gap between those two things, between the constant movement and the rare edge, is where most trading careers are quietly lost. Not in bad analysis, not in poor strategy, in the inability to sit inside that gap without acting.
to watch the market move without being compelled by it, to tolerate the discomfort of inactivity long enough for genuine structure to appear. That tolerance is not given. It is built through session after session of choosing the definition over the urge, choosing the structure over the movement, choosing the weight over the click. One session at a time, until patience is no longer something you practice, it is simply how you trade. The most expensive trade you will ever make is the one you took because you could not wait, and the most profitable one is often the trade you did not take at all. Patience is not inactivity, it is discipline in its purest form. Your growth as a trader begins with self-awareness. The rest follows. I'll see you in the next video. Until then, control your mind.